Ready?
What should we drink first?
This is recording. Excellent. Everybody, thank you all for coming. Welcome to Y101 show on a Friday night, September 25th. Tonight, we're welcoming Anthony Lamonaca and my friend Mark Ancona from Golden Vines Importing. Gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate you
Thanks for
having us, Chris. Here tonight.
Yeah, very excited about this evening.
See everybody's face, only the ones that are
Yeah, we can see everybody's face. If you got noise in the background, just mute yourself for now. So everybody, pour yourself a glass. We'll get into everything. Everybody's got their cheese plates ready to roll.
We're going to start with fizzy, right, Chris?
Yeah, we're going to start off with the fizzy, but first I want to introduce everybody. Mark's my rep from Golden Vines Import. Anthony Lamonaca, he's coming out of New York tonight. Mark, where are you coming from tonight? You're down in what?
Down in Fairfield County.
Mark's down in Fairfield County. I'm representing Northford, Connecticut up here tonight. And this is one of the benefits of having a platform like this. I can have guests from the wine world, from all corners of the world, essentially. It just makes it so much more fun, and you're gaining more knowledge from the people that have their hands on these wines. And both of these gentlemen are responsible for getting these wines here to Connecticut. I've been after both Mark and Anthony for all summer just because he's posting. They do a great job on their Instagram. If you don't follow Golden Vines on Instagram, please give them a follow. They're one of the best groups I work with, just bringing me phenomenal wines from smaller producers that really are indicative of where they come from. Before we let everybody in tonight, just tasting the Lambrusco, and we'll get into that. Just picking up all these different notes and everything. And, we're tossing around different ideas back and forth and coming up with these ideas of what to pair with it. We could go on for 2 hours just about what we're eating and drinking with these wines. We're going to condense it down for everybody tonight. And Mark, take it away. We're going to pour the fizzy. Anthony's going to get into what we're going to pair with it. And we're going to talk, we're going to drink, we're going to eat. Cheers, everybody. Raise your glass. Want to salute?
Salute.
Salute.
Cheers.
So
Thank you for joining us. Let's get into this first wine, the Lambrusco.
So this is the fizzy. This is from Lambrusco. Obviously, it's probably over the last 30 years has suffered a terrible wrath of reputation based on your Riunitis and types of brands that had come into the market and had destroyed what the perception is. But this region, Emilia-Romagna is the general region that this comes from. Lambrusco is the it's the grape as well as the wine. And there's various clones of the variety that are used in making Lambrusco. But the winemaking tradition goes way back to like Roman times, to the right after AD. And it's one of the oldest wine. The Etruscans, actually, it was before it was the Italians, the Etruscan. This was part of the Etruscan tradition of winemaking. So the winemaking tradition goes way back 2,000 years. And these wines, and Emilia-Romagna as a general rule, and that's why Anthony obviously has prepared the charcuterie and not charcuterie, that's French. Sorry about that. The salumi and the various accoutrements that go with the wines of Lambrusco, one of the most versatile wines there is in all of Italy. But Emilia-Romagna as a culinary area is renowned. It's the breadbasket of Italy. It's renowned for prosciutto di Parma, for Modena, for the balsamic vinegar, for the Reggiano Parmigiano. So the Lambruscos are made to go with a variety of pasta bolognese sauce, obviously from Bologna. So these wines, these Lambruscos, this particular one you're drinking tonight is a drier style. They can range from drier to amabile, which is the sweeter kind of styles. This is meant to be more of a kind of all-purpose Lambrusco. As you guys taste this, you're going to get this kind of refreshing, fresh berry kind of feel to it, but also it's got that the frizzante that you want. That, but it almost has a red winey character to it, which Lambrusco is a red wine grape, obviously. So this meant to go with, and I should go over to Anthony for a few minutes just for the food pairings with this, as you see in one of the screens there, is a classic. You want to talk a little about the classic accoutrement for accompanying Lambrusco, Ant?
Absolutely. So thank you all. Thanks for having me and Mark, and very excited about this evening. These are two special wines we recently brought in, and Chris is right. He hounded me all summer long because I talked about the wines, but they were never getting here, which is very common in the import business. But we're super excited to be here tonight and for Chris to highlight us so much, and in the shop, which has amazing selections. We were there yesterday, and I was just checking out just little sections of the store, and everything. You know, I hate to push them for more of my wines, but everything in that store is like what we do, you know, working with artisanal producers and just chit-chatting with Chris, and so many things that we share. And I think you guys who have Chris as your go-to wine store are very fortunate. I live in Westchester, but I'm born and raised in a place called Williamsburg, Brooklyn, that the hipsters found somehow. And you know, these young people and open these stores up, and that's all they work with. A lot of our business is with these small stores, but when I live in Westchester, and a lot of the stores don't focus like Chris does. So it was really refreshing and exciting for me to go to a suburb of Connecticut and to find the selection of wines that he has. Even if, you know, they're not all mine, the selection is outstanding, and including, you know, his spirits and you know, different things he has there. So you're very fortunate. I don't know if you realize that, but I give you a lot of stores that don't that don't have a selection that Chris has. So just wanted to say that. I appreciate Chris having us, but I really appreciate Chris having the business, because without Chris, there's no business for us as well, because we'll all be stuck with the big box stores and ordering from Amazon and having to go to Costco, you know, for everything. And then we won't get these artisanal wines, artisanal products. They will disappear. We'll only deal with the commercial brands that have to travel across the world, across the country. And it'll be all of our people. I'm sure you're here because we all feel the same way. We'll all be at a loss for having the artisans that these people are making these products. So I just want to stick that in there. But to show you what a traditional Emilia Romagna, I'll use Mark's term, charcuterie plate, but really the Italians call it salumi. Salumi carries everything, essentially the same thing. So if you can see here, I got this wonderful gift this past year from my cousin, but it's grilled mortadella, something that we don't see in America. People doing mortadella this way, where they cut it, but in Emilia, can you all see this? Emilia Romagna, they cut it thick, they grill it briefly. It changes the texture and the complexion, and it brings out all these other flavors. And I'll be honest, growing up, I didn't eat anything like this. It wasn't something that I would find appealing, and probably I have 3 sons. I don't think they've ever find it appealing either. But this is mortadella, a very famous food product from Emilia Romagna. If you go to Emilia Romagna, you will find mortadella everywhere. Next up, you know, obviously you will find this everywhere, and you'll find it in every corner of America too. It's, I'll point it with my fork. It's prosciutto di Parma. By the way, I promised him that I'd mention his name. I bought all of these products down on Arthur Avenue today, a great little store called Calandra, and just awesome people. I'll post pictures, and I hope you do follow us on Instagram. I'll post pictures of the store, because they have amazing things like fresh ricotta, fresh mozzarella, all of these salumi, just outstanding products. And it's a tiny store. I squeeze in when I have to get there. I make sure I wear my mask, of course. But he gave me this. He actually gave this to me as a treat, because I'm a regular visitor. So this is what the Italians call guanciale. Sorry, I was mixing up 2 different words. This is guanciale. It's the pork jowl. So the neck of the pork. This is when you have when you make different dishes like matriciana, pasta matriciana. This is what the Italians would use. They don't use pancetta. They use guanciale. As Americans, it was easier to get pancetta. Guanciale was one of those things the FDA frowned upon for many years. Many of the artisanal producers in America started making their own guanciale. So that's guanciale, outstanding. You see the lardo, the fat all the way around, you know.
Big time.
I mean, there's one thing I should mention here as well about the wine with the food. You'll see these are all fatty foods. I think it was Chris mentioned breadbasket, or Mark mentioned breadbasket. But you know, breadbasket means wheat, and so they call it grosso. They call it the fat of Italy. You know, it's the area that specializes in these amazing foods that we see here. Outstanding. And what's Lambrusco? Lambrusco has the bubbles, and those bubbles break through that fat and make it refreshing. You know, instead of drinking something heavy like a Cabernet, which would be terrible with all of these foods, it just would not work.
Right.
Drink instead this 11% Lambrusco. So
that's the thing, Anthony. I think, especially when you talk to people about food pairings, especially a chunk of Parmigiano, an aged Parmigiano like that, I think it's a natural reaction. People, especially with Italian food, is to reach for a big, heavy tannic red, and especially with cheeses, you don't want anything big and tannic. It just destroys it, the delicate nature of the cheese, and let alone the charcuterie. So exactly what he mentioned, the bubbles, the fat, it just complements everything. It balances everything out like that. It makes for a great pairing, makes for, you know, a good time. You know, you're able to taste all the different components. The wine comes in, it really accents some of them. In this case, with the fat and the bubbles, it really pops that flavor open in your mouth.
And even the richness of a bolognese sauce can match up with Lambrusco, which you wouldn't think of necessarily, but you know, having that rich bolognese sauce, which does have the meat in it and the fat from the meat, and pair it up with Lambrusco. And to explore Lambrusco, I mean, Anthony, who had visited with this producer and sourced this wonderful Lambrusco, which is a great little value in Lambrusco, but Lambrusco's range different styles. And this one captures all the components at a kind of really nice, affordable range. Because you can range in different price ranges with Lambruscos as far as going from up and down the ladder. But this particular one is that Anthony had sourced is a particularly good value, and from what we've tested and tasted in the marketplace. So fizzy, it's the name connotes it all in that sense. But
and just what you were mentioning, just the character of the wine and the affordability. But there's something else on the back label. This is an IGT, and for the most part, for IGT wines, they're all, and we'll get into that, especially when we get into the Donna Toscana. There are great values every different tier, especially when we're talking about European wines, different classifications. So just in my experience, especially with Lambrusco, the IGT Lambruscos are good. This has so much character. I haven't found an IGT Lambrusco that drank, and I'm not trying to butter you guys up. This is just from experience and from truth. I haven't found an IGT Lambrusco that drank like this with so much character. And again, before we started this whole program tonight, I was telling Mark and Anthony, I don't have this ice cold. I got home a little on the late side from deliveries tonight, so it came down to room temp. But all the characters are coming out of this, all the nuances, and it's just there's so much depth of flavor in this wine for an IGT. And with the IGT, with the Lambruscos, they have a little more leniency as to what they can do with this. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They have more leeway, like most IGTs within the regulatory body in Italy. They have a little more leeway on how percentages, exactly how it's produced. So definitely true. This producer, sort of to remain nameless due to our relationship, is a very renowned, what the Italians have an award from Gambaro Rosso called Tre Bicchieri. This producer has won this award for a higher end wine for sure, but we were looking for a certain price point for people to enjoy every day. And we say fizzy equals fun, mainly because we wanted it. We don't want it to be, as the Italians would say, a meditative wine. We want it to be a fun wine, something to enjoy with these dishes, and just to, be with friends, be with family on a Friday night, and pop a bottle and enjoy. We did the charcuterie plate to just, really to do tradition. I didn't finish here, but that's capicola And then we have Parmigiano Reggiano, and this is a balsamico vinegar, 25-year-old. And so if you can see my plate here, the Italians would pour just a couple of drops on the balsamic vinegar, mainly a couple of drops because it's too damn expensive.
Right.
But
Right.
but the flavor from it, you know, it would overwhelm if you added more. And I threw in just some other things, just like olives that I put up. And I work with this. He sells wine for us, but on the side he owns a business called Sotto il Sole. You should follow him. You should know about him. His products are outstanding. These are sun-dried tomatoes from Calabria that he imports. The stuff he brings in is outstanding, and I'm fortunate because I like to eat food and I like to cook. These are roasted peppers that I put up on my barbecue grill. If you want to know anything about any of the foods, check us out on Instagram. You can send me a direct message.
Yep.
You can ask me a question. At that point, you can ask me for my phone number. I don't really care. And you know, no problem. I bought some nice bread on Arthur Avenue today. This is called ciabatta. You know, I can't get it in Westchester so easily. Ciabatta means slipper. So you see that real great airiness to the bread. I mean, we eat a lot of bread in my house.
And ciabatta is olive oil, right, Ant? It's an olive oil based bread, or at least.
I don't know if it has to be, Mark. It's a good question. I never heard that before. It might be, but I never heard that before. I think it has to do with a longer fermentation period.
Gotcha.
That's how I know it.
Yeah. I know focaccia is more of an olive oil based bread.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking. Sorry about that.
Focaccia is more of the olive oil based bread.
So I want to show you one last thing that I brought back.
Yeah.
This is a little something funny because I was reading up, you know, doing a little prep for tonight. You know, I brought a nice big chunk of Parmigiano Reggiano, and they said in the book I was reading, like, you got to have a Parmigiano Reggiano knife. So it seems like whenever I go to Italy, I try to pick up one of these.
Right.
Can't always find them, and then the other thing is, to make it really traditional, what you do is you kind of poke the cheese.
Yep.
And you break it up and you serve it, you know, kind of like that, you know, and that's how you do it. So
Right.
I thought it was important. I thought it was important to share. If you wanted to be serious about trying to put together a real Emilia Romagna plate.
Right. I spent 3 years cracking Parmesan wheels when I was a cheesemonger down at Liuzzi's. Liuzzi's is a local fresh mozzarella producer here in New Haven County.
Nice.
And to
That's
have
cool.
to have knives like that are essential to get those big,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
85 to 100-pound wheels open. There is an easy way to do it. Like I
Go
said,
around, right, Chris?
what's that?
You jab all the way around. I've seen them do it. I've been to the Caseificio.
Okay,
They
so yeah.
jab all the way around.
There's a few different ways. Everybody has their own technique. I used to have a big double-handled knife. You would score the top with, so what Anthony has there, it literally that literally pries it open. But prior to that, we would have like a hook, similar knife like that, but on the end of it would be a hook. I place a knife across, you know, a big long knife across the top. I make a score down the middle and literally score into the, you know, to the rind of the cheese. I knife the edges so I can fit that style of knife he has into both edges. And then you take this long chiseled knife right down the middle and you just start scoring it down the middle, flip it over and do the same thing and just crack it open. If you've never had a fresh wheel of Parm cracked open in front of you, usually the center cut falls out. It's the nature of the beast. And that's like the filet mignon of that cheese. It's absolutely stunning. And just how he's serving it there, you're cracking off just shards of it. And as it ages, you get those little crystals in it, those little calcium crystals. And with the right wine, again, I reiterate, don't use a big, heavy tannic red. If you do enjoy red wine with the Parmigiano, that's fine. A lot of people grate this and dump it over their pasta. That's fine too. But to eat this cheese and really savor all the nuances in it, the right wine will pull out a certain inherent sweetness in that cheese. Look at that. That's a meal right there. You don't even need dinner.
I love eating like this.
Yeah, that's the Italian way. That's what we do.
Absolutely. Except I'd add a few more pieces of everything.
Right. Right.
I'm being kind right now.
No, right. That's an Italian person on a diet.
Right. Exactly, Chris.
But I think the fizzy just complements everything on that plate. We sent home cheeses and charcuterie for everybody to try with everything, just to give you like a broad scope of what this wine's able to do with the right components in front of it. And we had talked earlier that this isn't a wine. I mean, it's a great wine to have in the summertime. It's refreshing. It's light. It has fruit quality to it, and it's low in alcohol. Which, I mean, you could drink a lot of it and not, feel horrible about it. But to take this wine through the fall and into the holidays, and we were all talking, I serve this wine every holiday. We start off with the Anipas. It's not as elaborate. Well, it can be as elaborate as what Anthony just made. And we just take it right through from the Anipas to the other apps. Then we bring out the lasagna. Then we bring out whatever the main course is. And it just keeps going. It's light. It doesn't weigh you down. And that's an important component when you're trying to pair things with, especially a holiday meal or any meal for that matter. You don't want to be weighed down. You want to keep everything in balance. That's so important. You want to keep everything in balance.
And as we know, Italian meals can go on for 6 hours. So you need you need something that you can go through the meal. Even though we will go to the red wines as well through the courses, but to have something light and refreshing, but also serious and red winey almost, which it is. It is a red grape, and they Lambruscos can be tannic. I mean, have some tannin to them. It's a balancing act for the winemakers as well in that respect. Which I think that this wine, you do get some of that backbone, some of that red winey feel to it on the back of the palate. But it has that lightness and that kind of refreshing wash on the fruit on the front of the palate. But if it's obviously most people are having it chilled. Of course, you didn't have it as chilled, but
no, I'm loving it like this though. I love it. Yeah, I mean it's a wine, again, I keep reiterating, it's a wine that has a lot of depth of flavor. And as it comes up to room temp, you're going to see that flavor change. If you drank it too cold, it's still delicious. But as you're going through the course of your dinner, your meal, this wine's going to evolve in that glass, and it's going to be an entirely different animal when you get done. Not bad. It's not a bad quality. It's a good quality. It makes it interesting. And that's a lot of their wines, what Golden Vines brings into us. That's the whole beauty of them. They find these smaller producers, and you're not spending tons of money. When you hear that adjective, that marketing term that a lot of people use, where it's small batch, artisanal, boutique. Boutique doesn't have to be expensive. It's a matter of people like Anthony and Mark. They're finding these small producers, and not in these super obscure places in Europe. It's Emilia Romagna, Tuscany. There's so many producers out there that need recognition, that need to be in front of the masses. And that's the benefit of having relationships like this with importers, distributors like Golden Vines. And you're talking under $20 for both of these bottles, but they don't drink like that. We did a Lambrusco class back when COVID first started, and another good producer, but those were DOC, I believe. DOC, some of them didn't have the depth of flavor as this, and I'm not knocking those wines. They were very good. But everybody has their own style. And again, I used in the chat room, I'm talking about Pizza New Haven and relating that to the DOC, DOCG. Everybody has their own style, just like every pizza maker in New Haven has their own, little flair to how they make their pies unique to them. And you need to find that in each wine producer. And especially with Fizzy, it's its own unique style. And to judge every Lambrusco based on this, I mean, you can't. But you sit there, you taste this, you say, wow, I really enjoy these qualities about this wine. What else is out there like this? And that's my job. I'm out there tasting. I refer to Mark and Anthony, hey, you got anything else like this? So I can bring to the consumers. They're really interested in tasting more things like this. And that's a vital component in this whole, circle of life in the wine world.
What's any reactions from anybody out there as far as how they're enjoying it? Have they tried Lambruscos before? Or,
yeah, unmute yourself. You can ask questions as we're going through this. Again, this is interactive. We need to hear from you all too.
If you want to.
If you want to. If you're embarrassed, don't be embarrassed. I mean, again, yeah, Lambrusco class tournament, big fans. Yeah, that's what it takes to really introduce people. And again, at the beginning of this, we said Lambrusco had such a black check mark, a black X across it back from the 70s and 80s with Rio Nidi, and everybody, that's how they remembered Lambrusco, but there's so many producers out there saying that's not what it is. That's not what it's all about.
And
Likewise,
the Italians were probably happy about it because all the good stuff was
Right.
left back there. And it's kind of akin to what happened with White Zinfandel and Rosé.
right.
I mean, White
Right.
Zinfandel basically ruined the pink wine category until Rosé over the last 10 to
Yep.
12 years has just become a whole nother ballgame. And it's not one of the hottest wine categories there is, but it starts somewhere. But
Right.
the Italians at the same time are probably not as pumped up on it because it's going to push prices up if more people drink Lambrusco and the good stuff is leaving the country.
Right. Right.
We liked both the dry and the sweeter versions. They're
Yeah.
both delicious.
Oh.
And this
And they're
is great.
fun, right? They're just fun wines.
Fun wine.
They're,
Yeah.
Pizza wine.
Pizza wine. Absolutely.
I was going to bring that up. The one thing we didn't talk about is how great Italians love to drink Lambrusco with pizza, and they drink beer and Lambrusco with pizza. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what Italians drink. You don't go there; no one's drinking a Super Tuscan or anything.
No.
You know, they're drinking essentially Lambrusco and beer with pizza, and you understand why when you try it. I mean, I actually on my Instagram I showed a lot of pizzas with the fizzy because it goes so well. It's you know, pizza's not so expensive. It's communal. You 8 slices, whatever it is, you know, and so you have a bottle of inexpensive but delicious wine that's interesting. And just one point, Chris, you brought up is that earthiness on the wine that we all enjoyed. It wasn't just a very simple; it had some complexity to it, and that's what Mark and I and my business partner Ben, we really found that we really loved in the wine. That it wasn't just a simple wine, regardless of the price. It really had some complexity to it. So we were excited about it. And, you know, honestly, the feedback from the marketplace, and that goes from the 3 different territory states we're in, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, has been really spectacular. So really, really excited about the future.
and actually, as you know, Ant, we were up there yesterday up in that area that New Haven that's like epicenter in this country for
Pizza.
Drinking Lambrusco and eating New Haven pizza, you just take 7 days, have 7 different pizzas and
Right.
7 different Lambruscos.
Right. So Sunday night, I went to Worcester Street. I took my son for his birthday dinner, and just what Anthony mentioned, there was it's a small local place. It's making, you know, a lot of noise down on Worcester Street because his pizzas are more of the traditional Italian style, where they're light, light and airy. But
Zanelli, right?
all the Italians that go down there, they're drinking beer with pizza. That's the first thing they order. They come in and that's what they ordered with everything. And I'm watching them, how they're interacting and everything. Beer's on the table, pizza come down, you know, 1 pizza, 2 pizzas, you know, and that's what they're drinking. They're drinking their beer, pizzas are done, espresso comes out right after that. And just to watch all that, you know, my son's inquisitive. He's like, they're not going to order wine. I said, no, that's they want bubbles. They want something refreshing that cuts through all the not grease, but all the oiliness on top of the pie between the cheese and whatever toppings they're using. And it's a great compliment. And if, you know,
I gotta get fizzy into every pizza place in New Haven now.
you should. I told these guys, you got to bring in more Lambrusco. I said that's like quintessential with everything you're serving here. It's absolutely fantastic.
Does anybody know if any of the I didn't even check on it. Do any of the New Haven pizza places would offer that? Would be
Yeah, Bar used to. I think Bar used to have the Clietto Ciarlo. They used to have that on the menu. Yeah, somebody mentioned Zanelli. Yeah, it was Zanelli's I went to. They have one on the menu. I don't think they promote it as much, and they should, because it's a phenomenal wine to utilize.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to I'll have to make a tour of the pizza.
Yeah.
They'll probably they probably won't know where I'm coming from, but I'll have to do my old.
That nice group of guys, real hospitable, and you feel like you're eating on the street now, because we're all eating on the street if we're going out, and you feel like you're back in Italy, just outside in the open air markets, sitting down, having a glass of wine, having, you know, a slice of pizza. It feels like they're taking you away. It's an experience to really go down there. But yeah, how's everybody? Make some comments in there. Yeah, definitely a drier style. But again, like I mentioned, there's enough fruit in there to please everybody. It's not like bone dry. That's what I like about this. I like a little fruit in my Lambrusco. Somebody else about sangria. Yeah, you could definitely make sangria with this.
That was Suzanne.
Yeah, put some fruit in there. Yeah, you're ready to roll with this. Any other comments? Any other questions? You can unmute yourself, ask a question if you'd like. While you got Anthony up there cooking, throw out some questions about what he's, the thought process about assembling a plate like that. It's just beautiful. Especially that grilled mortadella. I'm actually craving that right now. As soon as he put that camera on that plate, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't have a full dinner tonight. It's killing me.
Chris, does Liuzzi's have the thick mortadella like that?
So if you go to Liuzzi's or any kind of specialty food market that would have a real big thing of mortadella.
A torpedo.
Yeah, exactly, a torpedo. Especially with mortadella, it has a dedicated slicer. It doesn't move from that slicer until the end of the day. At least in Liuzzi's, that's how it is. They had one dedicated slicer. And if you go there, I don't know who the gentleman is that works in the deli right now, but ask them to cut a thick chunk for you. Specify how thick you want it, and I'm sure they'll do it for you. But with them, again, I worked there for 3 years. They're getting some of the best imported ingredients they could source, more so than some of the bigger stores out there. I mean, for us here in New Haven, we're spoiled to have them here. And yeah, I encourage anything you see on Anthony's plate. If you're not going to Arthur Ave, if you make the trip down there, absolutely. But if you can't get down there, Liuzzi's is the next best thing in this area. Absolutely. If you're down in Mark's neck of the woods, down in Fairfield County, go see my friend Laura at Fairfield Cheese Company. She'll hook you up big time too. I don't know if she has a big torpedo of mortadella, but I'm sure she can get one for you. Excellent.
We are truly blessed around here.
Yeah. Next, what do you guys think? Ready for the next one? You guys ready for the next one? Mark, Anthony, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Let's start with the wine first because I'm going to clean up what I have here, and then I'll move it out to the left, and then I'll bring some of the stuff for the actual preparation of cooking something, as we promised. So Mark can talk about the wine and start the process. I'll be listening, and I'll be right back.
So Anthony's son set up all the camera angles and everything, and I made the comment, this looks better than any PBS cooking show I've watched.
Yes.
In my youth. I think everything looks fantastic, but while he's getting set up, Mark and I will get into the next one. It's got an interesting backstory to it.
Ant's son works in Ant's son works in California in movies.
He's in Hollywood. He's in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's Hollywood. So anyway, we're moving from Emilia Romagna. Moving a little south.
I brought him in just to do this show tonight.
We're moving a little south to Tuscany now, and this is two of the quintessential, Emilia Romagna being the first one, but not as well known. Now we go to the most well-known, perhaps, area of Italy for classic red wines. They make some white wines as well, but classic red wines based on the Sangiovese grape. Most famous regions being Brunello di Montalcino, Chianti Classico. This particular cuvee that we're going to be having tonight comes from perhaps the one that's not as well known, but regarded by insiders to be as renowned an area for the production of classically made Sangiovese. It's from the region Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, which is also one of the most confusing names of wine in Italy, because Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, it's from the noble wine from Montepulciano, which is a town in Tuscany. But there's also obviously that you guys have all been aware of Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, which is the Montepulciano grape from Abruzzo. So there's always been in the wine world a kind of little bit of a confusion with that. But that you don't have to worry about that with this wine because it's not on the label, but just for edification's sake. So Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, this wine, this particular cuvee is from a dear friend of Anthony's that he's worked with for years. And the particular producer had an opportunity to go national with his wines, but we being more in the tri-state local area, he kind of felt bad. And he's good friends with Anthony, and he made it a point to say, listen, and Anthony, between us, didn't like the labels as much anyway.
Yes.
So he felt let me, this is an opportunity for us to do our own label with a classic producer's wines. So it's a homage to the women of the wine world, Donna Toscana, donna meaning woman in Italian. And it's I guess it could be called a super Tuscan in the sense that it's got 80% Sangiovese and 20% Merlot. So anytime you have a little bit of an addition of a Merlot or Cabernet grape, they use the term. That's where the super Tuscan moniker came in. But I wouldn't consider this a super Tuscan in that sense. But it's because it's a classically made Sangiovese made with natural yeast. And when you taste this wine, so just give it a smell, you guys, and I have to finish my last sip of Lambrusco there. So the Donna Toscana, with the Superwoman on the label, is a Tuscany. Sangiovese is arguably, along with Nebbiolo, the greatest grape of Italy, making some of the most long-lived red wines. And in the hands of a small producer of this character, you're going to get a lot of this dusty cherry kind of floral components to the wine, little spice to it. And again, this 2017 vintage, very good vintage in Tuscany as well. And what are you prepping up before we?
I was enjoying the story on the wine, actually.
Well,
I'm joking. I'm joking, of course.
It's your baby too, so give it a little bit.
I'm joking. So all I'm doing here is I wanted something simple because I was very nervous. I love to cook, but I never did a presentation ever. I've watched a million of them, but I've never done my own. So tonight,
you look beautiful, brother.
Chris owes me, but I told him already. And,
I'm gonna go in there and cook for him.
But I'm excited regardless, and I'm excited you guys all came. So all I'm going to do tonight is, and I just started it just to figure out how we do the timing here as Mark's talking about the wine. I just started very simply with chopping up some garlic a little bit, not too much. My family doesn't like a lot of garlic. And I had some beautiful peppers that I grew this year. So I decided to use my peppers. And then what I wanted to say was, I go to the farmer's market generally every Saturday over here in Lower Westchester, Bronxville, and I go to this little farmer who has organic vegetables, and my wife hates bad garlic, and it's true. You get a lot of garlic from China. No knock on the Chinese, but I don't want to really have. I'd rather have local garlic, more flavorful. You can use less. Doesn't have that bitter flavor to it. And so I buy the garlic like that, and then it's ready to go. I don't want to burn the garlic, so it's essentially in 20 seconds. Yep. This is ready for tomatoes. So I was just my thought was something simple, something easy, but at the same time all about flavor, and that's Italian cooking in a nutshell. It's all about simplicity. It's all about the best ingredients you can buy. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just needs to be good. And the other tip I would give for people who don't cook all the time, don't be afraid. Number one, and number two, and all I did was chop up tomatoes from my garden. So really, I was like, what can I do? But I was like, the tomatoes are great. Yeah. They're at the end of the season. Why don't we do something that I do at home? And let's make a simple tomato sauce, fresh tomato sauce. So this will cook in 10 to 15 minutes. So I just started the process. We'll do it like that. I would say. So then I was thinking, well, people will probably ask, well, okay, how do I replicate it at all? And how many tomatoes, and could this be served all year? Of course it can. I like to put my good olive oil in a little squirt bottle.
We did that. Yeah, we did that in the kitchen too, on the food truck especially.
Just a little salt on everything, of course. It's one of my kids made this, so I
nice.
use it. But But that's it. I mean, this is simple. Italian food is about simplicity. The French were famous for codifying these the sauce, especially the sauces. That was really all French cooking. But Italians were never about that. I mean, a marinara sauce was supposedly goes back to the mariner's wife. The boat would be coming in, and then they would. I guess we can leave that here. Then they would know that the boat was coming in, and they would throw on the sauce and create a sauce to go with the pasta. Italians love pasta, of course. And so we'll cook this down for like 10, 15 minutes, and then it's going to be all about, again, the ingredients. It's going to be about good olive oil. It's going to be about good garlic. It's going to be about good tomatoes. It's going to be about good salt. That's salt that comes from Sicily, sea salt from Sicily. It's going to be about good pasta, which I'm afraid I'm going to overcook, but I'll do my best not to, since you guys won't eat it, but I will, and I don't want to have yummy pasta. It's about fresh basil, which I have from my garden, so I know that's good, and I'll finish it off with some of that Parmigiano Reggiano. Yep. As you saw, we have that chili pepper. So that's it. I mean, some people get intimidated by cooking, but this isn't anything to be intimidated by. This every cooking show I've ever watched, at the end they say, "Oh, delicious." I can guarantee this will be delicious because everything I just put in here is delicious on its own. So it can't be bad. It's not. There's no way it could be bad. So I think that people get freaked on cooking and recipes, and I have a million cookbooks. So I certainly know recipes. But for me, cooking is about, especially when I read a recipe, I try to figure out what the essence of the author of that recipe was trying to do. I try to just follow maybe the first time along with what he did or she did, and then after that, it's kind of like, okay, I understand what the recipe is trying to do, and now it's for me to make it in a way that I think, for me, my palate, not that you should have it that way, but for my palate, right, is how it could be better. And it's like wine in that regard. No one can tell you what's good or bad. I always tell people with wine, well, it's like music. What you like for music and what I like for music are two different things always. So you shouldn't be intimidated to say what you like. And even that I actually normally when I do a wine event, I'll crack open a beer. I bought this beer at Chris's yesterday. So I've had it already, Chris. By the way, it was delicious. I had it last night. And I'll crack open a beer to start. And I'll pour a beer and I'll put it in a glass and I'll drink it. And people are staring at me because they all have wine in their glass and I'm drinking a beer. And I joke and I say, so what are you thinking about when you drink a beer? And everyone's like, not much, And I'm like, well, why do we freak out over wine that you need to figure out every flavor, everything? People ask, what's going on in my glass? Can you tell me what I should be tasting? No, I can't tell you what you should be tasting. I can tell you what I taste, but I can't tell you what you taste. And nor should you worry about it.
Right.
In Europe, people drink wine. They don't have long conversations.
That's so important that you mentioned that. And again, I've talked to people in the wine world in our industry, from critics to bloggers to other pseudo wine professionals, and they're like, no, you should absolutely be telling people what they're tasting. I'm like, but you can't. Everybody's relationship to what's in that glass is very different. Their experiences, their palate is very different. So if you're going to sit there and drill into somebody that this tastes like, and I always use the New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, this tastes like gooseberries, this tastes like lychee fruit. How many people have had gooseberries? I mean, I haven't. So how can I relate the flavor and experience of gooseberries to this wine? And that goes for anything you do and taste, really. And I always encourage this in all of our classes. Really come up with your own flavor profile and your descriptors and tell us.
Or not, or just enjoy it.
Right, just sit back and enjoy it. Right, absolutely. I mean, when we go out, even if I sit down and drink the wines with these guys, like we did yesterday, I mean, we're not sitting there pontificating for an hour about it. We're sitting there going, this is good, right? Yeah, I love it. And that's what it comes down to.
Just telling about the provenance of the grape. The beautiful thing about wine is, and why I fell in love with it, is because you have a multitude of just grape varieties.
Right.
And the grapes themselves offer all different kind of flavors and different areas to explore them in. And it's not about like knowing about it. It's just that there's that variety there of flavors that's not like in any other category, beer, distillates, etc. Wine is unique in that you have over 1,300 grape varieties that wine can be made from those varieties.
Right.
Albeit probably only a couple hundred that make good stuff. But I know Jancis Robinson's Vines, Grapes, and Wines has over 1,300 grape varieties that make wine that she documents and does descriptions for. So there's no way you could even get into the, like intricacies of what this tastes like from this obscure grape from Slovenia. It's it's basically just like, but like to be open to just trying different wines and then drilling down like we're doing tonight, which is brilliant, with the wine and food, which is no better place than Italy, because the food and the wine together is what's important. And I studied in London in the Master Wine Program, and wine to the English was a very educational thing. And Americans definitely adopted their attitude about wine from the English and not from the Southern French and the Italians, etc. And actually, it's funny because I was talking to somebody yesterday about if the French had won the French and Indian Wars in 1737, this country would have been speaking French, and we would have had vineyards growing all over the place. And as a result, the English won that war, and we're a beer drinking kind of country. And our attitude about wine came from the English. And when I was in England, I realized this: the English don't drink wine; they drink beer, and they study wine. And when you go to the south of France or Italy, they drink wine and eat with the wine and don't really talk about it as much. And so it's an interesting dynamic that if we did have the attitude here that would have happened if the French had, well, and there could be the Papist French too, no doubt about it. But if you get northern, but if you go southern France or Italy or Spain, they just drink wine and enjoy it. And obviously there's varying degrees of quality and cost. But wine is a beverage to these people, and not to be something to be ultra studied, etc.
Oh, right. Overstudied, right.
But Anthony, talk about the Donna Toscana a little bit, about how your relationship with this producer, because it's a cool little story too.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Mark said, it's a producer. It's a renowned producer that makes that wine. We have an agreement because he's going to go with another distributor. He's a friend of mine. I was invited to his wedding in January on December 31st, 2018. In July of 2019, I went to visit him, and he broke the news. And he said, Anthony, I feel terrible, but I have this opportunity. He said, but you always hated my label. You always hated my label. I think it'll be good for both of us. So in the end, and immediately I thought that was the case. And it took almost a year to do it. Obviously, the wine only got here. But the wine, from the moment I first tasted that, when we first started our company in 2019, I thought it was outstanding. I thought the price, I was blown away by the price. I thought that this wine could have been double the price, and instead of what it was when I met him. And it had a label that wasn't for the American market. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And he had no reason to change because he sold the wine and he was happy with it. So we were, my business partner Ben and I were trying to figure out a label that would be more conducive to America, something more interesting. And we hired this young lady from Brooklyn who was in the process of moving to Austin, Texas, and through a friend of a friend. And so she moves to Austin, Texas. We have to go through emails, which is why it took longer. And then she gives us, we want to do a superhero, Super Tuscan superhero. We're gonna try to capture, even though, as Mark said, it's not really a Super Tuscan. Americans don't really know too much. They know Super Tuscan. Italians don't even know what that means. It's an American term. And so we want to use the Super Tuscan term. And we bring the woman sends us a draft, and Ben is at my house, and my wife walks by as we're talking about it, and she says immediately, "Why are always the superheroes men?" And Ben and I look at each other and like, "You're right. It definitely should be." And then after that, we started tweaking it and talking with our family. I have 3 sisters. Ben has 2 sisters, and our wives and our moms, and they were all, everybody. We wanted everybody's opinion. And so we just started working with it, and we thought, hey, you know what? This is a great idea, great opportunity to highlight everything going on in the modern world today. So super Tuscan was the term was going to be super Toscana, meaning a woman super Tuscan. We found out the Italian government on the regulatory body of wine said, no good, it's got to be something different. And then we came up with together Donna, which means, as Mark said earlier, woman Toscana, so a woman from Tuscany. And we thought, oh, that's perfect. So I have to get back to my food because the sauce is done, as I promised. I mean, that's done.
How quick it cooks.
It's about cooking quickly. The pasta might be a little overdone, but this is actually a great pasta. It's an artisanal pasta, and it comes from my buddy who I mentioned earlier, his import company. So this is a pasta that can hold up. This is a pasta that could hold up to extra time. I'm not worried about it. It's not a commercial brand, so I know that it, it has a little more bite to it. Al dente is really about the cooking, that it has a little more bite and it didn't cook as long. But this pasta, given the wheat that they use, is going to be harder, and it's not going to be an issue. If you saw what I did, just this little trick, if you want to call it a trick, I put this pasta into the sauce and I'll let it cook for about, it cooked already a little too long, I think. I actually didn't even try it, so I'll try it right now. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's the key. Put it in the pan and let it absorb. Yep.
And so I let the two cook together.
Mhm.
Let me get something from my hands. And this is going to be ready in 10 seconds.
Yeah, that's the key. You take it right from the pasta, from the water, right to the pan. Finish it off in the pan. That way it absorbs any of the liquid within the pan, the oil, all the flavor, the seasoning that you put in there. It continues to cook and absorb that. Pasta's like a sponge, and it's gonna soak in all those flavors. Yeah, that looks fantastic. And
I'm gonna plate it.
The microplane. That's
Something here. Yeah, microplane, of course. Chris and I, we see each other on Instagram, and I know he likes the whole food business as well, like I do. And the wine, goes hand in hand with it. So Italians, just another thing about being traditional to Italians, and it doesn't really mean me, because I'm really an Italian American, but an Italian would not have a lot of sauce on their pasta.
Right.
I like a lot of sauce, my wife knows it.
Correct.
But I tend to like more, but generally an Italian would not want a lot of sauce. They don't. If you go to Italy, you'll say, didn't they put any sauce on? But that would be traditional here. I chopped up some basil, which this brings the flavor, the freshness, the little peppery bite that basil brings to a dish. Besides looking so wonderful on the pasta, all I did, again, simple, but I'm always amazed when people, oh, Anthony, what did you do? I feel like I'm a magician, where I don't want to show my tricks, because if you saw the tricks, you would know that I'm a fraud. So I'll finish it with the good olive oil, and then I will. And how could this be bad? There's no way. I don't have to. But I did taste it, which is important. Which is important about cooking. Tasting as you go along is a key. And I think it's one of the things that I did learn early on, that the more you taste, the better you can cook, because you learn where the dish is going and what's needed. Many people don't, and they just prepare it and they serve it. But that is it. And
Wonderful.
Like I said, I'm going to taste it, of course, because it's Friday night. It's Friday night. I've been nervous all day, and I'm dying to eat now.
He's nervous. Look at this. Look at everything that's happening right now. And he's nervous. This came out picturesque, and that's a quintessential meal right there. That I've seen that in my house a few times a week growing up. Absolutely beautiful. And
And did you use those peppers in that at all? Or you mentioned those peppers? That was
no. You know what I did before, because I was afraid about timing.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was afraid about timing, so I was a little worried, you know, how much time I had, if it would take too long. I think I could see in more than one place. There we go. Let's see if you see me now. Nope, I don't know if that's working. My
That works.
direction is giving me direction, but let's see. Yes?
Good.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can see. Anyway, so I was worried about timing. And so what I did, Mark, earlier before we got together is I just chopped up, again, that garlic that I showed you. I chopped up a little bit, and I chopped up that chili pepper. Not a lot, just a little bit, give it a little spice, not to overwhelm the dish. Personally, I like it. I like to shake up my dish sometimes with more of it, and I might put it on when I eat this dish after we get off. But you know, that's what I like. You know, it's not mandatory. I mean, that's Italian cooking. You know, that's Italian cooking. You have fresh ingredients. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be all about the ingredients. It's not going to be about some sort of preparation you did, that you whisked the eggs a certain way in a double boiler. And I love French cooking, by the way, but I'm, you know, this is my heart and soul. This is my family, my heritage. And this is what, like Chris said, this is what I grew up on. And my wife is really Italian, born in Italy, where my family's 3 generations here in America. And I learned different, you know, it's very different between what we call Italian American food culture and real Italian, modern Italian culture. And I had a new appreciation when my girlfriend almost 35 years ago dragged me to Italy. And I went, and when I came home, I became an Italian junkie and realized I was actually Italian, and that's when I first started getting into wine so many years ago. And I ended up marrying her. We're married 31 years now. So, you know, that connection to everything Italian, you know, started from there, and the cooking part and you know, the wine part. I started making wine. I made wine for 20 years with my mother-in-law, and you know, it was a passion, and it just developed from there. So, you know, I love that I now have a business. I work with Chris, you know, people that have a same way. We didn't grow up together, but we have the same philosophy, same beliefs. It's great. Mark, of course, you know, and it's just great. I'm listening to Mark talk about wine. I'm learning things, you know. He said a couple of things that I didn't know, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
That's the beauty of
about
people like yourselves. That's the beauty. I live vicariously through you all, but I'm constantly learning. And again, I talked to somebody just before the class. I talked to somebody online, and he was commenting about, you know, this 24-year-old sommelier, and, you know, how he pontificates about all the different vintages of Barolo. But you take somebody like Mark, like Anthony, that get out there literally in the vineyards, have been to these places. And, you know, we've had long discussions with Mark. He's been doing classes with us, and he's been there. You know, he geeks out on the soil components of these vineyards because it translates into the wine. And you learn through people like this. And it's like, wow, it's a wealth of information, more so than any book can give you. And it's so valuable, and it's so appreciated. And you know, I hope everybody out there really.
Apropos to that, this Donna Toscana is so soulful. It's such a soulful.
It really is.
It's when you have it, you feel like you're the soul of Tuscany. And so this Sangiovese, I can obviously go with the type of dish Anthony prepared, but also like a Tuscan steak is a classic component, a classic accompaniment to this type of the bitter cherry aspect of Sangiovese, with the fat of not the fat, but like that richness of a Tuscan steak. But any kind of meat sauces or any cheeses actually as well with the Donna Toscana, because the Donna Toscana it's not a heavy Sangiovese. It's natural yeast fermented Sangiovese. It's a rich wine, but it's again, it's kind of delicate as well. It's got this delicate nature to it as well.
At 14% alcohol, though, it's not coming off as hot. I don't get that hotness from it.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting about it? And now I've tasted this wine many, many, many times. And the bottle and this is what I love about my producers. And I love my producers because they're all generally all families. They all have a family story and a history. And I love to ask them all the silly questions. But I like to know the stories. And Marco, who makes this wine, he's a motocross. He's a motocross racer, and he's a young guy. He's a great guy, and his wife too. He just got married, as I said, and they do motocross. But I love the whole family story. But this wine that I'm tasting right now from this bottle here is so different from the last bottle I tried. And real wine with heart and soul will be like that. They're not commercial brands. They're not made to travel across the world to make 1 million bottles. To make 1 million bottles, honestly, that's Coca-Cola. You know, you want to make millions of bottles. McDonald's burgers. You gotta make a product that every time you try it, it tastes the same. I don't go for that. I mean, I love that they all have a subtlety from that bottle. You know, there's just difference to each one. And I think that's the difference when you work with an artisan and somebody who puts their heart and soul in. I mean, to do wild yeast, to crush grapes and just like let it go. That's what they do. That's when they say wild yeast. You're at the risk of nature. I mean, anything can go wrong, but they do it because they don't want to strip the wine. This wine also, give you a little more, you know, it spends 12 months in a big barrel, not small barrels where the wood can overwhelm the wine, but a big barrel where the oxygen can get to the wine and enhance it, not dominate it, enhance
And they're
it.
neutral, right, Anthony? Yeah.
For sure. And then the other thing is they do very minimal filtration. Another thing that they do for wine, they filter the wine. Well, there's a philosophy, and this producer believes it, and I believe it too. The more you filter the wine, the more you filter out what the wine is all about, the soul of the wine. So they don't do it. It's bare minimum. And then the last thing is a term when they say vegan wine. Vegan wine, is that wine vegan? Well, what they call, there's a term called fining, and they also use clarification. I don't know if you ever heard that before. And what they do is they'll put an egg white at the top of the barrel, and that will, the very, very fine sediments floating around, the cloudy particles, it happens in wine because it's a fruit. And the cloudy particles, they want to get the cloudy particles out, especially in a commercial brand. You know, wine like this, a lot of our other producers, they don't believe in it. They you know, if it's a little cloudy, so be it. They don't want to strip the wine of what the wine is. So for me, you know, I pick the wines, a lot of the wines. I mean, we do it as a team. Mark is part of the team, and you know, we are all on the same page, and it's great. Again, it's great to find people in parts of, you know, suburbia like Chris, you know, who really believe the same. Like I said, in Brooklyn, there are a lot of people that we work with, and they're all, you know, they studied, and they're looking for that. But it seems like in suburbia, less people are less, they're looking for big brands. And it's disheartening, and I think they're on the wrong side of the future.
So we applaud all you guys out there doing this with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You came here to hear it and to buy
Salute to all you out there participating with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just a real quick one while I'm thinking about it, because the natural yeast, that's kind of a thing that you guys wouldn't be as aware of. But if you think about when Anthony talked about the 1 million case production wines, they inoculate a yeast to make when Anthony talks about the Coca-Cola-ization of wine, they use you can use the yeast to make the flavor of the wine. So they basically are concocting a flavor. There's banana yeast. There's yeast that there's yeast that will give a flavor to the particular wine. And that's what they want, that consistency of that flavor. It's a very simple flavor, but you're getting, when you taste this wine, this super good, you keep smelling it. And as Chris had put in his notes, open this an hour beforehand, because it'll open up and it'll change. It's a living kind of breathing product. And
I told this to Chris yesterday. Can you see how much is in my glass? I don't know if you can see that. Let's see that.
Very little.
There's nothing in my glass. But I can remember the day I first tasted this wine at the winery, Southeastern Tuscany, in November 2012. And I had a bunch of glasses in front of me. And I tried the wine, and I put the glass to the side. And I went and tried 2 other wines that they made. And I went back to the glass, and I took a sniff, and I was like, oh, wow, I like that. And I put it down and continued to chase wine. And then I went back again. And I kept going back to the glass just with that much in there. And I encourage you to do the same. And it just reminded, if you ever been to Tuscany, it just reminded me of Tuscany. You know, this is like a lot of, for me, again, this is my opinion, so you can find it or not. You know, it's that black cherry, that leather. That's what I always go back to when I describe the wine. Again, my description. I find like a leathery smell to it. And I love it, you know, personally. I bought it, so I'm a little biased, but I think it's, you know, it makes it special and interesting.
But it represents it's a real wine.
Right, it's a real wine. Correct. That's, yeah, everybody's saying, yeah, road trip to Tuscany. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go. I'm ready.
But I mean, like I said, even drinking this, the tannins aren't overwhelming. The alcohol is not overwhelming. It's so well balanced. There's a little fruit component, that tart, dusty cherry note, that just classic Sangiovese profile. And then the Merlot comes in and, you know, rounds it all out. You know, we're so fixated on drinking Chianti Classico, which are great. They're great in their own right. Again, if you like that flavor profile, yes, there's great Chianti, even small production Chianti producers. But again, when we pull something out, again, we're previous comments I saw in the chat room, we're talking about the IGT status, the DOC and the DOCG. Each different tier that gets, you know, the classification on the label, the IGT has a little more leniency, which is why it was created, so that they didn't have to adhere to what the DOC and the DOC wanted. These were winemakers that said, hey, we just want to make wine that can compete with Bordeaux and do what we want. We want to add international varietals. We want to create something different. And it gave them that leniency to do it. And within that realm, there's a lot of producers out there just saying, yeah, I want to do this. I want to be creative. I want to see what we could do with what we grow and really push the boundaries of our winemaking skills, instead of sitting there just saying, I can only use Sangiovese, I can only use Caniolo. I can't do this, I can't do that. I mean, that's what it's all about. So when you see that moniker on a label, it has to do with a lot of restrictions, again, but it has to do with a lot of quality too that goes into it. But even at IGT level, there's so much quality within that bottle. You're putting in the hands of artists, just different components.
This is DOCG level wine in an IGT bottle.
Right. No, exactly.
And Vino Nobile is DOCG. I mean, this grape, where the vineyards that these grapes come from, are basically DOCG level wines or grapes that are being grown, and then this fits into the level of the legal level of IGT, or the based on the nomenclature where this wine falls into, but has nothing to do with the winemaker and that style of the wine that this winemaker produces, which is DOCG level. We're not at liberty to tell the producer, but the producer is as highly regarded as a producer in IGT or in Vino Nobile as you will find, basically. So,
absolutely, very highly regarded. Very small production. I remember I walked into it. It was in Connecticut too. I walked into a shop, and they said there was a sign in front of their Vino Nobile, and it said, let me think of the number. It said only 9,600 cases produced. And I looked at it, and I said, and I was like, oh, that's it. And then I was like, oh, I didn't know that was small production. And then it caught my attention that this producer, he makes about 9,000 bottles of wine. So they were touting that the other producer made 9,600 cases. So 9,600 times
12.
Times 12. And they were touting it on a stack in the store with a sign on it that it was 9,600 cases produced. And I was like, oh, it caught me by surprise. Like, I didn't realize it was small production. And then I was like, cases. And so this producer makes about 9,000 bottles of their Vino Nobile. This one, I think he makes about, I don't know, 15 to 20,000 bottles. But if you look up bottle production from the Tuscany region, you will see many multi-million bottle production. I look at that kind of stuff because, again, I'm trying to work with smaller production. I feel like the smaller production, you get more of a heart and soul family production, family involved. People always ask me, as a little tip, or at least a little tidbit, that people ask me and they say, "Oh, Anthony, your wines, you have so many organic." This is certified organic, by the way. So many organic, so many natural, so many biodynamic, so many sustainable producers. Do you look for it? And I said, well, honestly, I don't look for it. But when I speak to my producers, after I'm talking to them about the wine that I like and the price is what I'm looking for, and I'll ask them about their production methods, and generally they're all the same. And some of them who I've become very close with, friends, and they'll say, well, why am I going to spray my plants with herbicides and pesticides when I'm out there with my wife and my kids every day? So, it just goes hand in hand, again, with the commercial estates, whatever, they sell a lot of wine. God bless them. They're probably better businessmen than I am, and God bless them. But, for me, I'd rather eat and drink healthy and still eat, and drink well.
And that's a great point. This is drinking these type of wines is actually good for your health.
Right.
Don't drink too much.
Right.
No, well, in the sense of what's in the bottle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%.
Because Italians will look at wine as a food. They don't look at it as like
Salt and pepper.
But it is like a food. It's fermented grapes.
Salt and pepper on the table.
Right.
Salt and pepper on the table is your bottle of wine for an Italian.
So last week, not to take away from these wines, last week I was drinking something similar. It was one of these minimal intervention natural wines. Very low alcohol. I think it teetered around 11.9, 12% alcohol. But you feel a difference as you're drinking it. Even the next day, you feel a difference in what you're tasting, what you're drinking. And again, some of the bigger companies out there, they can't do this, and to no fault of their own. I mean, they're in the business to do one thing, and that's to deliver a commodity to the masses that's consistent. Just like Anthony and Mark brought up. But these wines of this nature have a certain inherent quality that are different vintage to vintage, possibly bottle to bottle. And again, it's tasting with people like this. Even if I've had the wine before and I ran into this past couple weeks, where wines I've bought for the store, but I wanted to retaste them to see where the consistency still lies, and make sure it's still on point. Little variation maybe here and there, and again, I'll be quick to point that out, and especially as we go into a new vintage, to point that out. But it's so important to understand where wines like this are going and how they're evolving each year, with new vintages and everything else going on.
Any questions about any comment?
Any questions, please unmute yourself, ask questions, even about the food being prepared tonight. Anyone, don't be bashful. I know everybody's out there.
Drink another glass of wine. You can ask all the questions you want.
Ask anything tonight, yeah.
What kind of pasta that is?
What kind of pasta is it?
Oh, I'll tell you what. I'm not getting paid to promote my friend's business. But this is the pasta. He gave it to me. I don't know if it's backwards. But it's a ziti legati. So legati meaning it has ridges, yep. and it's this pasta di Gragnano. The Gragnano is a hotbed for great pasta. But if you do social media, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, though I don't check my Twitter that often. But if you do it to Facebook, if you follow us there and you send a message, I'll connect you directly with them if you're interested. If you're not interested, I'll tell you it's delicious.
We are, and thank you. We'll take you up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
The chap Anthony's talking about, Anthony Michele, he's from Calabria, right, Anthony?
Yes.
And the guy is unbelievable, and has sourced some unbelievable. And I don't know. Can you get his stuff?
You can get it. You know, and again, I'm not getting paid. I promise you. No, but it was the olive oil, and you know, he brings in some crazy stuff, and yeah, if you saw that, it's delicious. Like he'll give it to me because he knows I love it, you know. And he does these dried, sun dried. Let's get
Tomatoes.
And he has those peppers too.
Yeah, the peppers are killer, but you gotta have them. Gotta have them fresh. He does these dried Calabrian peppers that are.
Oh my God.
I call them, Chris, I will get you some. I will guarantee. Actually, I'll take it. Go one step further. Chris, everyone that signed up today, I will make sure they get a bag of those Calabrian peppers.
And weren't those an entree for John George? Ant?
He does business in Manhattan with a lot of the top chefs.
But those peppers especially, aren't they like sought after as far as?
Yeah. He does business with the Union Square Cafe Group, hospitality group. He does business with, if you're familiar with the restaurant scene in New York, Missy, what's her name? She owns Lilia and a restaurant called Missy in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Very popular. Her restaurant's been written up all over the place. New York Times and a lot of national publications. He does business with the Stephen Starr Group out of Philadelphia, and he does business with Upland, Manhattan, Stallworth. Great stuff. A lot. You know, the stuff is great. I mean, the problem is he doesn't get a lot of it. And the last I spoke to him, I asked him about it. He's like, yeah, I need to get a new container and soon. And he's an immigrant, and he's, you know, I'm supporting him because he's a great guy. He's become a great friend, and you know, he's raising his family, and he's doing the best he can, you know, in this crazy world. He just brought his wife and son over in October of last year, and it's been a tough go for him, but he never complains. The guy is he's a workhorse, and he's super honest, and just you'd love him. Actually, he'd make me look bad. You'd get the hook and take me off because he's entertaining.
Well, Chris, we'll do another Zoom one with McKaylee one time with you guys with some wine.
Chris. I gotta come up to see you with McKelly because he's a character.
Absolutely.
He's a character. You'll love him. He's a character. Everybody loves him.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you stopping by with him just to sit down and talk with you guys, you know, to do what we're doing here. I think it's so important, especially to hear everything from their mouths. You know, it's so influential, and you know, it's appreciated to do that.
So the peppers are in your guys' future.
Chris, also next Friday night we're doing an event. It's already sold out at Trattoria Vivolo. I know you saw me post something.
Yeah.
And in Harrison, and McKelly and I are doing a wine dinner there, and McKelly sold it out before, like immediately, and we're doing an event there, and you know, he's a guy you definitely should meet, Chris, because we're all of the same minds.
Same ilk, yeah.
I really appreciate him and his personality, and you know, he's just a straightforward, honest person.
Yeah, I mean, we should talk as we go into phase 3 in Connecticut. It was just announced this week. We're coming into phase 3 again. It probably won't occur until after the holidays, just so everybody could get acclimated to this new thing.
But at least we can all cook it. We can all cook at home and Zoom together, right?
We could cook at home. We could Zoom together.
Guys.
But eventually, I'd love to convene where we could all sit down and eat together. Even if we have to social distance, we could find a restaurant where we could social distance, and share these wines together with, you know, properly. I mean, you know, prepared meal in front of us. I think it'd be exquisite. And just to hear from yourselves in person and everything, I think everybody would appreciate that so much. Just tasting these wines on their own. I don't have any food in front of me, but it's just begging for fat, for, you know.
Next time, Chris. Next time.
What's that?
Next time we'll get food in front of you.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's the problem. There's always food in front of me, just not right now. That's my problem. That's that's the crutch of every Italian. You know, there's always food around, but it's not necessarily what we need right now.
I don't know where we are with the evening, but I whenever I do any event, I try to throw in a little something extra. Comes with my family heritage, and you never let somebody walk out with what they expected.
Right.
Kind of, I always try to do more. So I put a little something. I didn't put anything together actually, and I just wanted you to again the simplicity of ingredients. And so I did, I was on Arthur Avenue at this great cheese shop. You should definitely know it if you ever go down there. It's called Calandra. I don't get any money from them either, but you should know it. And they make, and I buy it because I do, my wife and I make ricotta gnocchi. They're like one of the only people that make fresh ricotta anywhere near us in Arthur Avenue. I know they do it down in Manhattan, but I don't know who's making it elsewhere. So that is just fresh ricotta. I didn't do anything to it. I would typically maybe, you know, if I had the time, I might whip it a little bit. I might add some, and this is again, just to give you like what I do, because people again are intimidated. I might whip that a little bit with a whisk just to lighten it up, soften it up, and then maybe shave a little. Actually, I was going to say lemon is how I typically do it, and then my plate is a lemon. But I was actually thinking, because I had a great clementine the other day, put a little clementine in there, shake it up a little bit. You can you can put olive oil in that. You can put salt on it.
The zest of clementine.
Yeah, zest. Sorry.
Zest, yeah.
I was in Sicily many years ago, and I was on actually a famous wine estate, and they also have a cooking school there in Sicily many years ago. And for dessert, and I never forgot, so I always do, when I can, I do this, especially when I don't have time, serve a dessert. And all they served was their fresh ricotta, and they had 3 different homemade jams, as the Italians would call marmellata. And they had 3 different fruits, and they served it with and I never forgot, and this is essentially a take on this, and they served just ricotta, fresh ricotta, and with these jams, and I never forgot because it was incredible, and I was like, oh my God, that is dessert, but who would have thought? And so I'm just doing the ricotta, fresh ricotta. I was upstate.
Oh my God.
Upstate.
Absolutely. Yep.
Some raw honey. So I'm gonna, and again, this is like, you know, when I go into my kitchen and my friends are over and we're having a dinner and I don't have dessert, but I want to do something, you know, different. So just, I'm going to take some raw honey and I'm going to drizzle it on the ricotta across the plate.
That's beautiful.
And then the thing is, like, you know, Sicily is so influenced by, you know, the Arabs, the whole the whole Ottoman Turk Empire, you know. And I'm going to put it's all about the ingredients. So it makes me look like a real, like I know what I'm doing. I really
doing it though.
I know that I don't know a lot. So
no, you're doing it though.
That's the best stuff that makes me look smart. That's what I know.
And what's that you just sprinkled on there, Ant?
So that was cinnamon.
Yep.
So and that's my own cinnamon, but you know, it wasn't, I bought that at a purveyor in Manhattan. And then what I did was earlier, again, I had this idea. I was like, oh, you know what, tonight. So I toasted pine nuts earlier, and I'll just put some pine nuts on top. And the reason why you want, you know, besides the flavor of the pine nuts, you know, it gives you the crunch without doing anything. I mean, today I actually made, over the couple of days ago, I made granola. And I put granola, I won't even tell you how I put it, but I you know, just for the crunch, just for the texture, I put it on something strange, but I won't tell you that today. But anyway, that would be my dessert if you were at my house right now. That would be my dessert. I just know everything I have there is good. So I'll taste it and I'll tell you it's good, but you won't know. But I'll tell you, and I'll try to be as honest as possible.
So I'll testify to this, even though I'm not tasting this right now, but when I worked at Liuzzi's, when they made the fresh whipped ricotta, and the father would get very upset with me, but people loved it. So what Anthony's doing right now,
Amazing.
so picture the ricotta coming out hot, fresh and hot. I would take, it's called Jaduja. It's a hazelnut chocolate, milk chocolate. I would shape curls of it into the hot ricotta and keep whipping it up, and then scoop it up for people to try and hand pack it into a container and sell it to them. I mean, all you had to do was dip a biscuit into it, a ladyfinger, and it was absolute heaven. People would absolutely go crazy for it. The father necessarily didn't like it. He didn't like his ricotta adulterated. It became impure at that point. But there again, I haven't tasted what Anthony's tasting right now, that ricotta from Arthur Ave, but to taste fresh, hand-packed ricotta is absolute heaven. And you don't need much, just what he did there. Drizzle the honey over it. I like the addition of the pignoli nuts, the toasted pignoli nuts, for that little crunch, that little texture to it. And that's a dessert. You don't need anything else right now. That's heaven right there.
And you know what? You don't get fat on these foods. And you know why?
You don't.
You don't get fat on them because they're not filled with all the preservatives and every other, garbage that they put in because it's got to travel the world. And these are essentially all natural products. I mean, I don't know what wasn't natural there, but and it goes back to the pasta as well. It's just simple, and it goes to the wine, and it all encompasses the same idea. It doesn't have to be so. It's unfortunate we didn't have 150 people here tonight because I really feel like the masses are missing out, and they're following the marketing. They're following the people are spending more money on marketing than on their products.
Right. True.
We're spending more money on our products than on the marketing.
Right.
And I'm comfortable where I am regardless, but I just feel like people are missing out on it. And a shop like Chris's, I walked out and I told Mark the same thing. A shop like Chris's, I wish him all the success because I really feel like he's on the right path.
Thank you.
It's just a matter of like word of mouth, people understanding where he comes from, trusting. Eric Asimov writes for the New York Times.
Right.
He's the wine writer, and I follow him often. And he never writes about my wines, so not so happy about that. But I do follow him because I really love the way he writes.
Yeah.
And he's written some great articles, and you should look him up about how to find a wine store. Where you should buy your wines. And Chris encompasses that. And I'm not getting paid from Chris either, by the way. But, it's just what he does is the right thing.
I don't have any money to advertise like that.
And it's great. It should be word of mouth. And it should be like people follow him because of the passion. And that's, if you got anything tonight, if you didn't find out that the three of us are passionate about what we do and what we're all about, then you really missed out on, forget the wine. It's about what we do and what we believe in. So I just, it was great. I enjoyed, I don't know if the night's over. I'll continue to drink wine, but I enjoyed the evening and enjoyed it. Thank you for coming and being a part of it. And I'd love to come back. And I'd love, when COVID's over, Chris, you should do an event. Anybody that's here tonight, you should do it just for them, and we'll do something special.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. I can't wait. I mean, I really can't wait to reconvene and get it back out there. I always say it's showing people what legs these wines have, when you put them up against food. And that's the real testament to the wine, how they work with food and everything. And I just can't wait for that. I can't say that enough, to get back out there and to sit with you all in my audience right now that have been in my classes, come to my dinners, to get back out there. And we're going to get there. We're going to get there. It's coming. And to get back and support our restaurants in the area all over. I just can't wait. I think it's so important right now. What's that? Whoops. Something happened.
Thanks for one of the time. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But before we close up tonight, I want to thank Mark and Anthony tonight from Golden Vines. Please hold up your glass, say cheers to them.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you all for doing this tonight. Before we close up tonight, I just, on a personal note, again, this is very personal to me tonight. I'm glad they picked this night and this topic. Today is my grandfather's birthday.
Nice.
He was a very, very proud Italian American. He would have been, I believe, 98 years old until the day he died. I mean, he was sharp as a whip, but he was a very proud Italian American, and he lived just this life. I mean, it was all about family. It was all about his friends, just treating everybody. I mean, all of you here tonight, he would have welcomed you to the dinner table, and that's what it was all about. And that's
Nice, brother.
this life from. And the food, the experiences, the friendships we built through that was so important to him. And I raise a glass to my grandfather tonight.
Cheers.
Nice.
Grandfather.
Yeah, very influential in my life. But today would have been his birthday. And it's just great. It's great to see this, and it's great to see this tradition going on still. And I talk to people within Connecticut. I talked to this young woman up in Waterbury area, and she's making pasta, fresh pasta with her kids again. And she's got to be in her mid-20s, late 20s, and she's teaching her little kids how to make pasta. And I messaged her through social media. I said, that is a beautiful thing. I said, I used to do that with my grandmother. I said, I wish more people did that with their kids. She's like, my kids love doing this. I think it's so important. Whatever tradition you have in your family, I say, keep doing it. Really encourage your family.
All right, Chris, we're going to interrupt you right now.
Go ahead. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you so much. But again, concluding for tonight, if anybody has any questions or anything, please send an email over to us. Message us through social media. You know how to find us. Mark, Anthony, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, everyone.
Really, everybody, give a shout out to them. Give them your applause. You can unmute yourself. Shout it out to them. Find their wines. You know where to find me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wines with everybody.
Chinan, as we say.
Yeah,
Chinan.
Chinan. Chinan.
Meet you at Liuzzi's tomorrow.
Thanks, you guys.
Liuzzi's tomorrow, everybody. Go to Liuzzi's tomorrow. Grab all the mortadella they have there. And again, thank you so much. I appreciate all the support, and I appreciate the support for wines like this. It's so important to get these wines into people's hands, and to go back out to the restaurants you love to frequent. Mention these wines to them. That's how they get their wine list perfected. Yeah, the wine list may be good, but there's always room for smaller producers like this. And I feel that, the more we talk about them, the more we encourage your favorite wine, your favorite wine bar, your favorite restaurant.
Well, I'm heading to every pizza place in New Haven and having the fizzy.
You're going to gain a lot of weight.
Yeah, get out there and talk about them. Cheers, everybody. Have a good
All right,
night.
guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Chris, thank
Good weekend.
Bye now.
Thanks so much for doing this. This is great.